It is therefore pertinent to state that there's an urgent need to gather stakeholders together in the education sector as we have gathered here today, not just to talk, but to act, as the future of our education sector lies in our very hand. In line with the Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Tajuddin Abbas, this conference and stakeholders roundtable stands critical in advancing strategic dialogue and collaborative action. The conference therefore provides a timely platform for policymakers, education stakeholders, and development partners to collectively address emerging challenges, harness new opportunities, and chart sustainable pathways for national growth and development. I therefore urge all stakeholders responsible house because we strongly prefer solutions for a brighter future for our education system. Let us move beyond dialogue and commit to actionable, measurable, and sustainable outcomes for this conference and communities. The time has come to prioritize policies that expand access to quality education, promote inclusive education for people with disabilities, encourage child education and development, improve teacher quality, capacity, and welfare, modernize curricula to meet 21st century global standards, and leverage technology to bridge learning gaps across urban and rural communities, thereby encouraging digital literacy. I encourage policymakers and legislators to translate the outcomes of this roundtable conference event into impactful legislative reforms and strategic oversight and initiatives that will transform our education sector. I also call on development partners and private sector stakeholders to continue supporting innovative and inclusive education programs that empower Nigerian youth and children to be able to compete globally. Today's conference is packed with keynote addresses from seasoned professionals and education stakeholders, panel sessions tailored to various aspects of education in Nigeria, delegate engagement sessions, and lots more. Under the leadership of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the visionary legislative direction of the Right Honourable Tajuddin Abbas, there's renewed momentum to reposition Nigeria's education sector to be recognized for excellency, inclusivity, and global relevance. Support that national economic prosperity, but so the future of education in Nigeria with which we can use to change. Thank you for joining us, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Can we please make that applause for her a bit louder than that? You'll all agree with me that that is a tone setting for this very important national roundtable. And whilst she was on presenting her remarks of welcome, I told you earlier on that the persons that have been carefully selected as resource persons for this national roundtable are persons who are themselves lawmakers, and so they have great understanding of why this roundtable is important. So whilst he was on, we received with us Honorable Ife Ehindero, Chairman House Committee on Student Loans. Please a round of applause for him. And our brother and friend, Honorable Fuad Kayode Laguda, who chairs the House Committee on Federal Policy for Education, who is equally here represented by the Honorable Minister of State for Education herself, a woman that loves education so much that he would not sleep thinking of what happens the very next morning. I'd like you to please join me in welcoming with a very resounding applause Professor Zuaiba Saeed. I think it is pertinent that we go straight to the program of events for this morning. After listening to the woman who's been working very hard and assiduously to see that this program is a very good, I mistakenly addressed Honorable Mokhtar Shagaya as Shagari, well, it's a slip of tongue, which is always never unexpected. And please kindly indulge me. Please let's put our hands together for the Mukhtar Shagari one more time. Shagaya one more time. Shagaya, I beg your pardon. We have also recognized a few of our distinguished guests. Comrade Dicey, you're highly recognized. Your presence is very important here this morning. Dr. Belinda Colombia is representing the Director General Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations in the person of Right Honorable Sanusi Garba Rikiji. Can we please put our hands together for the person representing the DG? Is he here? Is he here? Oh, okay, madam. Thank you so much for coming. Dr. Boyega Ilusonya is a national team leader playing FCDO. Can we please welcome him? Thank you so much for coming. Dr. Mikael Ibrahim, Education Advisor, FCDO, British High Commission. I'd like to welcome you. Solape Soluga is Deputy Chief of Staff, Conference of Speakers and Presidents of African Legislators and Director Legislative Manager. Quite a big one. And I think very soon we'll start paying you visits. And then, of course, I'd like to also recognize Honorable Dr. Moturayo Akintomide, National Assembly Service Commissioner. We'd like to welcome you again. Thank you very much. We'll keep those recognitions at bay. And then, of course, we'll move on with the very next item on our flow of programs. So, British High Commission, Ian Atfield. Please, a warm round of applause for Ian as he comes up here. Do you intend to speak? I told us before that the National Assembly Television is covering this event live. So on your social media handles, YouTube, Facebook, and what have you, you may wish to tune in and tell people at home to watch as well. Ian, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I recognise Right Honourable Ambassador Jadine, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and I think I'm allowed to say all protocols duly observed. It's absolutely delighted to address this very august gathering of experts and legislators about one of the topics that's closest to my heart, certainly something I've focused on for many years, is education and basic education in Nigeria. I think I'm looking at the programme, I think I'm the only non-Nigerian speaker on the agenda today. And certainly, as well as representing the British High Commission on Education on their behalf. What struck me on the exchanges was this idea of evidence-based policy and lawmaking, because I think that is something where we can really add a lot of insights, both from the UK, but more broadly from international experience. We've seen, I mean, I'm really appreciative of the reform agenda that's being rolled out under Renewed Hope. We've got recently in the room, obviously the Honourable Minister of State, and we're really supportive of a lot of those changes that have been coming in. We've also seen, I think, the formation and expansion of the NEL Fund, providing university loans, has really taken off over the last couple of years and gone to scale. So right across the board, there's a lot of reform going on, but I think it does need, from the legislature, those twin ideas of evidence-based laws, reforming, revising the laws, making things fit for purpose, but also the accountability mechanism that comes from the legislature, because the House committees are incredibly important to hold the executive to account. Certainly, we spend a lot of our time travelling. I'm often up in states like Kano, Yobe, down in Lagos, because it's incredibly important to see what's happening on the ground to make sure that laws and policies and government are accountable to the people. Once I actually had to account to you much on basic education, because our population of children proportionately is shrinking, and the issues of old age care, social care, are more relevant to countries like Japan, UK. But when we think of Nigeria, the average age is around the late teens, I believe. Around half the population are children. And that says something about the direction of resources. Generally, it's I think widely recognised that not enough resources, whether it be from government, from parents, from civil society, from the private sector, are not going on to education. I believe it was under his first military term as president, Obasanjo, around 50 years ago, that universal primary education was declared as a government policy. I'm afraid whether it was a law or not, or policy, I'm afraid I'll have to bear to other experts on that point. But it is worth reflecting that over half a century, we have universal basic education policy. There's debate on the scope of what is basic education, but the statistics are not in favour, in some cases, any education whatsoever. So I think that with that in mind, the universal education law revision is one which I think we've been really supportive of, and very much welcome the House Committee in taking this forward. And my understanding is it is currently at the third reading of the House. I think plans to make more domestic government finance available for education and to keep on targeting and seek to get the best possible use of those fundings is an incredibly important agenda, and one which I hope will come to fruition in the current term of the House. Thank you very much.
Well, please do. It does happen. And it's true. Thank you. Very pertinent. Nigeria those days, secondary America from Germany. Where did we get it wrong? I think in the course of this roundtable, we should be asking ourselves these questions. And I'm sure with legislative interventions, by the grace of God, we'll be able to take our education, the education sector, back to its pride of place. I hope that happens. If you're doing that and you're also thinking in that direction, in anticipation, can we please applaud the lawmakers that are here? But of course, the Honourable Minister of State Forever, the Honourable Minister as well.
I don't know. I have so many people to recognize this important opportunity to talk about the education sector. Distinguished senators and honorable members here present, chairman and members of the education committees, heads of education agencies, SA International Cooperation and Educational Development, Mrs. Abisoya, thank you. You have always been vibrant, and development partners that are here present, education stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Of education in advancing the opportunity to affirm our collective commitment to building an education system that is inclusive. It highlights the indispensable role of the legislature in shaping the future of education through responsive lawmaking, effective oversight, and sustained investment. A strong and adaptive framework remains fundamental to addressing emerging challenges and unlocking the full potential of Nigeria's education sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, under the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and the Federal Minister of Education, education is recognized as a critical driver of human capital development, economic growth, social stability, and national competitiveness. Realizing this vision requires a harmonious collaboration between the executive and the legislative arm of government to ensure that education policies are supported by modern, relevant, and forward-looking legislation. We commend the National Assembly for its continued support to the education sector, particularly in areas of basic education reforms, teacher development, skill acquisition, technical and vocational education, digital learning, and of course, inclusive education. These interventions underscores the power of legislative action in translating national aspirations into tangible outcomes. As Nigeria confronts an urgent need to strengthen and update education laws that promote quality and relevance at all levels of education, professionalize and empower teachers, ensure sustainable and equitable financing, and foster innovation, research, and skill development aligned with national priorities. We are encouraged by this conference, which brings together lawmakers, policymakers, education practitioners, and partners to engage in constructive dialogue aimed at shaping legislative solutions for a brighter educational future. The Federal Ministry of Education remains fully committed to working closely with the National Assembly and all stakeholders to translate the outcomes of this engagement into impactful reforms. In conclusion, we congratulate the organizers and participants on this meaningful commemoration of the International Day of Education. We are confident that the deliberation generation to come. Please accept the assurance of our highest consideration. Thank you, and I wish you all a fruitful deliberation. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The fact is that we are quite many in the hall, and it's only the persons on the front row that have been clapping. Can we all please make it a clap for yourselves and the Honorable Minister? I've also been told to speak to the Honorable Minister, saying this only when she gets to her seat, so that having a tete-a-tete with our Honorable Fulata, she will not lose track of what the company have been told, particularly to plead with you, knowing the exigencies of your office, that you please do not leave until we get to the plenary session, so you can also contribute, because there are questions from, burning questions from the participants from diverse parts of this country that you may be responding to. So please kindly accept our assurance of not holding you down here for too long. Please, can we applaud the Honorable Ms. Joseph? Nodded in the affirmative. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. And so, moving on very quickly, we are meant to be taking the remarks of the Chief of Staff to the President, and he told you he is on his way. Whenever he gets in here, because of the exigencies of his office, he's not able to be here right now, as well as the Speaker, who is equally on his way. So when they get in here, we'll get them to speak to us a bit later. But for now, we'd like to invite Audu Isadora Hassanan Ojone from Command Day Secondary School, Abuja. She's gifted. She's a word merchant, and I then call her a lady with the spoken words. Please, a warm round of applause for this young, talented girl as she comes in.
Good morning, honorable members, esteemed guests. As you know, my name is Audu Isadora Hasna Odrone. I stand here today to give a spoken word on the future of education in Nigeria, legislative solutions for a brighter tomorrow. In education, the key to our nation's best. From Lagos to Abuja, from Kano to Port Harcourt, we children deserve the best. We can't ignore it. We children deserve the best, we can't ignore it. From the dusty classrooms to the outdated textbooks that we use, we need to rewrite the narrative. Let's take a new hook by getting digital skills, smart classroom, and a curriculum that's bold. That's the future we are fighting for. Let's allocate this with legislative help and collective efforts. I hope our
Celebrate this lady one more time. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. So it's Distinguished Senator David Mark. All right. Yeah. Thank you. In the course of all this, you did so well. Can we please give another round of applause? Thank you very much. Your return to your seat. Thank you so very much. We're having a challenge, and I'm having a challenge. The challenge is I'm scared of saying we should go for a tea break. And the moment we go out for a tea break, you can't hold this creme de la creme of VIPs down for too long. Before you know it, the call comes in, I need to catch up on the before you know we're losing them. So I'll put it to a voice vote. Those in favor that we go for a tea break now and we still have them back, say aye. That's really very dull. Those in favor that we all go for our tea break and reconvene later with all our special guests still seated with us, say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. So do we go ahead with the nays? Okay, thank you very much. And I think this is actually due to time constraint. Please tarry with us a while. We won't keep you here for too long. We will quickly get to constitute the first panel. That will be the fastest way for us to go. So before you know it, we'll be out of this place in the next 1 hour or thereabout. Through effective legislation, priorities for the next decades. Our panelists are Hajia Aisha Garuba. Do we have anyone representing or standing in for her? Please, you're one of our panelists this morning. We'll get the name afterwards. Dr. Mohammed Sani Idris is Executive Secretary, National Commission for Almajiri and Out of School Children Education. Is he here? Dr. Mohammed? Or a representative? Do we? Okay. The next person to join us will be Honorable Mukhtar Tolani Shagaya, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Basic Education and Services. He's here with us. With a warm round of applause for him. And then we have Comrade Audu Titus, National President, Nigerian Union of Teachers, represented here. So you're also one of our panelists. Honorable Aliyu Ibrahim Mustafa is Chairman, House Committee on Alternative Education. I'm not sure he's here with us. And then Honorable Oboku Abosinzibe of Forji, Chairman, House Committee on Basic Education Examination Boards. That person too is not here. So we make do with the numbers that we have, and so we can discuss this very briefly. And it is going to be open to all afterwards for your quick interventions. Remember, eventually it's time for the interactive session. So please, Haji Aisha Garba's representative. Yes, please. We have done it in a manner. Okay. Okay. Now we'll get his. Yes, we'll get to take your presentation, and after that, we can then quickly arrange for the chair for the panelists to come here and discuss the paper. So, are you ready for us?
So I think someone was going to be the moderator for the panel. I'm probably take that responsibility. Yes, that's you. Me, actually.
Okay, you are. Okay, so it's also that I was not foretold. Yes, I was not foretold. So you can come up and do your stuff. No, I don't need the instructions.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. As it is with the tradition, thank you, sir, for really the wonderful job. Great. Thank you. Good. Thank you. I think two more. Two more, yes, please. Yes. One more. I'll sit. Just anyone. All right. I think in the interest of time, I'll call on the panel members. Again, my name is Mikhail Ibrahim, Education Advisor with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office at the British High Commission here in Abuja. my pleasure to be the moderator for the panel. I'll invite Honorable Mokhtar Tolani Shagaya. Honorable, please, over to you on the panel here. I definitely, much as I want you to be Shagari and welcome you in Sokoto, I can't make that that mistake. This is our second time of being on the same panel together. Yes, please. Thank you. And then, yeah, sure. Honorable, yes, Honorable Ali Ibrahim Mustafa, Chair of Committee on Alternative Education. You are most welcome, sir. And then, of course, Honorable Talani is the Deputy Chair on Basic Education. Thank you. Then the representative of Universal Basic Education Commission, a director from the commission, and then, of course, last but not the least, yes, I think representing the NUC, Comrade Audu Tatis representative. You give us your name when you take the mic to speak. NUT, National Union of Teachers, Nigerian Union of Teachers. Apologies, Nigerian Union of Teachers. Okay, the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the title, the topic of this panel is Reforming Basic Education in Nigeria through Effective Legislation, Priorities for the Next Decade. Really, really interesting topic. And we have two members of the National Assembly here. I must say that for me, it's a privilege. This is not the first time of meeting both of them. Honorable Shagaya, just late last year, we were on the same panel together. Honorable Aliyu Mustafa, mid-2025, we were in the room with the Advisory Commission. What this goes to say is that the theme of this engagement, bridging legislative engagements and education policies and practices, is really happening because we are being connected. And thanks to the SA, Madam Avishay, really for this effort. This really strengthens the engagement. Education is indeed the cornerstone of development. Education has levels: basic, secondary, and higher education. But I must say that basic education particularly is critical and essential. It forms the foundation of prosperity. When the point around no nation rise above the quality of this classroom, I have the bias of understanding that this is prioritizing basic education, because we know in the tertiary institutions, we talk about lecture rooms. So saying that no nation will rise above the quality of its classroom is really emphasizing basic education, which is very critical and essential. My colleague strike in 1999. I was actually physically in Sokoto when President Obasanjo visited and launched the basic education policy. Since that time, we have seen tremendous development, tremendous improvement in the supply side of education. Infrastructure significantly improved. I was a teacher before that time, and we have seen what happened. Teacher training, much as it is still low, I'll give statistics, has really improved in that regard. But we are not yet at equilibrium between demand and supply to education. Infrastructure, we still need a lot of classrooms. Teachers, we still need many more teachers in spite of about 1.7 million teachers that we have across the country. Issues of equity, financing, partnership, and so on. So this is what we are discussing today on this panel. And I will start with Honorable Shagaya. Honorable, we know that something is in the cookie 1999, but the law 2004 for better and effective basic education. Can you give us a highlight of that process and what that means to transforming and reforming basic education in Nigeria?
Okay. Good afternoon, and once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, I go straight into it by saying, how do we decentralize some of these acts, utilize the funds, and how we monitor how states utilize those funds. I think that's one of the central pillars around the reforms the committee is currently embarking upon. And of course, to assess the quality of education and whether the children are actually learning what they're learning and how we follow that data. I think that's equally important. And then, of course, trying to get the states to take ownership of some of these activities and have their own quarterly. There's really state insured. So I guess there's a lot being done in the space, and I'm just choosing this as one of the sectors to touch
upon. Honorable, actually, I don't know when I'll come back to you, but I can't help the urge as participants in the sector. We know that 2% is of the consolidated revenue is allocated. Anything about reviewing this upward through this legislation?
Well, I actually sponsored a bill to double that figure to about 4%, and I think in collaboration with the chairman, we've now been able to agree for 5 principal agendas. One of the key agendas of this 10th House, was to double the allocation to UBEC, and that is something the committee has been able to do. We're just waiting for it to get through the final stage of the session.
That's really impressive. We can't wait to see that through, indeed. Now I go to Honorable Ali Mustafa. Honorable Sir, you chair the Committee on Alternative Education. We want you to educate us on what that means to basic education.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This is a big question, and I must best decision taken by the National Assembly, the 10th House of Representatives, under His Excellency the Speaker, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, for creating the Committee on Alternative Education for the first time out of the Committee on Basic Education. The emphasis is to, give the necessary oversight to those areas that are hitherto forgotten or not given to the nomadic children, the dropout and the illiterate or half educated Nigerians. Since the creation of the committee, just give a highlight of the expected target, the serious danger. What happened from that of parents to the teachers, has created a kind of, and with the creation, alongside the 2 other mandate agencies, the National Commission for Nomadic Education and the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education, were able to, for the first time, emphasize on the oversight and the needs to, bring the challenges and problems of these forgotten groups in the society to the fore. On the other aspect, the alternative education model generally emphasizes a shift from the formal conventional education framework to a framework of education where skills development, moral education, and modern education, are coalesced into, a sort of curriculum where a child will be exposed and an alternative will be provided for the word or parent to, choose for his word, which now model of education should he adopt. the alternative education model where he will be trained to know how the necessary tools, educational background, modern education where he learns to read, write, where he knows aspect of technology and he also study aspect of science, where he also learned the moral education because the moral decadence, has gone a long way in affecting, the child generally and by extension to society. When you look at the challenges society is having now of this insurgency, particularly the BH from the northeast, can sustain themselves. But with that model, by the time a child is trained to have it, if it's a Muslim, at the end of the day, by the time now he moves equipped. If he chooses the huge sector that is hitherto unforgotten, when you look at our mechanics, you look at the electricians, you are living in this building that were designed by somebody like me, an architect, supervised by a builder, with necessary structural stability. The tiles, you can see the ceiling fixed, the painting, and whatever. But by the time now we have this model in place, and the child, passed through it, and was able to be equipped with these 3 E's: moral education, modern education, and the skills education. The society can be said to be on the standard of getting somewhere, getting the overall country, becoming, productive. So this is the aspect of alternative education, and that's what we are working on. The National Assembly that started the pace, the Almajiri Commission on board, the other 2 agencies I have mentioned, and with the creation of the House Committee on Alternative Education. There's going to be a lot, maybe in the aspect of legislative actions, looking through the acts, various acts of agencies, strengthening them, and making sure that they have enough to be able to discharge their mandate.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Really, please a round of applause. This is really an interesting overview of what alternative education covers, the scope and the institutions that are charged with that mandate. I'll go to UBEC. UBEC, of all that Honorable Shagai highlighted about reforming basic education, including the proposed increase in funding, you have greater burden on delivery. A point has been made around decentralization, dealing with 36 efficiency.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that intervention regarding the key activities of the National Assembly in respect of basic education delivery in Nigeria. As you well know, UBEC is an intervention program, meaning that it's only supposed to serve a supportive purpose. States, local governments are the owners of that responsibility. So when the National Assembly plans now to decentralize responsibility and continuously advocate and support what they're doing through financing, through leadership, through technical advice, and that also is really a lot of result. Because if, for instance, you consider the issues of funding, a number of states, much more than before, are now accessing the UBEC fund. A number of states are not only implementing the UBE projects within their domains, they are also remaining accountable in utilization of the fund. And a number of states are also taking the lead in providing improved capacity for their teachers and other system personnel that support what goes on in basic education delivery. Thank you, sir.
Really great to hear. This is a major shift that we need in Nigeria. I've been saying that education is on the concurrent list. And what that means is that the center, the federal, provides policy guide and direction, while the states take responsibility. But with UBEC, over time, we see that kind of centralization. It's great to see that things are now devolving really to states and local government. Thank you very much, sir, for that overview. Now I come to the teachers. The representative of our tell us your name because you are representing him so that we take it accordingly. What is NUT doing to engage teachers and connect them with all these reform agendas around?
Mr. Moderator and the House. I am Comrade Solomon Daisy Beyoa, the Director of Industrial Training, Operational Development, the National Head Office of Nigerian of Teachers, and I'm here representing the National President of the Union, Comrade Titus Aldo, who is unavoidably absent. So thank you, Mr. Moderator, that what is NUT doing, the teachers doing. When we talk of the teachers within the educational system, it is the most important factor after the child. Within the school system, the most important factor or element is the child. After the child, next is the teacher, because it is the teacher that makes learning possible. And with that as it may, it is our duty as a body representing the teachers of this country to ensure that we sensitize our teachers on all legislative reforms, different forms of reforms taking place, so that they will be abreast of happenings within the system. For instance, I said that the head of industrial training. So we move from state to state. Like myself, we sensitize not only on trade union activities, because we have a dual mandate of defending, protecting, safeguarding the trade union rights of our members. The second leg of our mandate is contributing to the development and growth of education. So be that as it may, as we are here, everything that the National Assembly is doing, all legislative provisions, we too assist government by sensitizing our members adequately. And we all know that the fact remains incontrovertible that education is the most important tool ever devised by man for his advancement. And that particular element that constitutes the fulcrum of this system needs to be up and going. That is, the teachers. And there are a lot of variables we believe that they need to be taken into consideration in this country if we actually want to get there. We talk of a quality, maybe I'm permitted to shape in this. All of us here seated are products of education, and by education, products of teachers. Among us here, we are having the best brains. So in a situation whereby class brains are made to teach our children, among whom we have first class brains, cannot take us to the desired level that we require in this country. What am I saying? To improve production of teachers, we need quality teachers. A situation whereby the dregs in the academic world, without any other better option, are now forced to take up education as a field of study in the universal tertiary education is not the best. People that score 150, if they are pursuing medicine, they are pursuing engineering courses, no, it's no longer possible because 250 is needed. They will say, can you manage teaching? Then the dregs in the academic world are now being compelled to go into teaching. They will say, go and manage it. And these are the people we are going to entrust the future of the country in their hands. Our children in kindergarten school, in primary schools, most of them are becoming engineers that will be teaching them. And for this to ensure that they motivate doctors. What do you want to become in future? We say, in future, I want to become a teacher. Be a paradigm shift from all these oddities if Nigeria actually wants to get there. Because there's no way we can provide and never be higher than the level of their teachers. So that being the case, we need that legislative enablement to ensure that.
Thank you very much, Comrade Solomon. Sensitization is really key. You have a large demography across. And then, of course, I think you touched one point, linking with the pre-service, right from university, college training, that comes from making teaching really attractive so that applicants are interested in going for education. Some of us made that really hard choice without regret in a way. So NUT also has that professional responsibility to make teaching even more attractive. I'll come back to all of you. Maybe Honorable Shagaya, I think there's a lot more we need to know about the legislation over what you have made overview of the legislation and then the oversight responsibility on basic education.
So thank you very much. So what I'll say to that is we have to do the small things and about what it is we're tracking, right? I think it's really important to have a way of assessing children in primary 2 and primary 5 as to their level of English proficiency and their ability to solve math problems. I think that would significantly boost our ability to deliver quality education as whether teachers are fairly deployed location perhaps. And then data. I'm really big on data, and I think that's really what gone for data. I mean, per geopolitical zone, two-bed heads, per local government, as to what can be done from the legislative side to ensure that that doesn't occur as often. And then I'd mentioned the core credibility and seriousness to the whole educational space, and to be able to have proper monitoring of that activity. And then also linking state budgets, right, to some of these UBEC activities, right? So the state show further commitment from their own state budgets and not just wait for the center to produce, all that is required for these reforms to take place. But in terms of data, I really think proper sorting of data should help states make faster decisions, know exactly when to intervene, how that intervention should come, and when that intervention. My brother from the NUT there speak about teacher training. I think if we employ EdTech, I think there's so much have measurable, and these things can be uniform across the 774 local governments. So these are just some of the things.
Impressive, Honorable. Thank you very much for those thoughts. It's actually gratifying to be hearing this kind of dialogue happening within the legislative space. After all, this is the purpose of this engagement, to actually doing, and from doing to being. I see this sequence of events, saying, doing, and being. And when the saying is right, then you can be assured that the direction of doing and being are likely. So really great thoughts here. And I must say that there is a lot for children that is out of it by age 10. So learning poverty by age 10, every child is expected to be able to read and write proficiently. But what we have is only 1 in every 4 that achieves that. So we have a lot of tasks to provide that basic foundation. And then, of course, equity between rural and urban. The data we have from the multiple indicator cluster survey shows the most remarkable inequity now is between rural and urban populations, where schools in rural communities are really down. So those are really interesting reflections, and we want to see them channeled through the arteries of legislation, and of course through the action events of Marjorie and other school children. The mass literacy, what are you doing to address that?
This is a very big question, very discouraging. Creating the committee from the Right Honorable Speaker, we take a leap from to all those that we believe can be of assistance, development partners, reaching out, engagement, a bit within and outside the country, and working hard to have an increased budget envelope. It will amaze you to know that NMEC ago, when we had the budget session, so you can imagine any decision that was wrongly done. So we have to restore them back to the budget and resolve to call all of those that matters, to ensure compliance. Amazingly, their total capital is not up to 760 million. So also the National Commission for Nomadic Education, Their total capital is no more than 1 billion. The Almajiri Commission that was created to address particularly the menace of Almajiri and out-of-school children that are almost everywhere. Their total capital budget from the budget envelope is not up to 2 billion. So you can see the disconnection and you can see the challenge. But you know, we made effort, and I most appreciate Mr. Speaker. The last budget, when I saw it, when I met him and said this is the challenge, he was able to raise up to about 13 billion addition to the National Commission for Almaji and Other School Children. An additional 1.5 to the National Commission for Nomadic Education. You can see the determination from the National Assembly. So the issue, the challenge here is to revisit the acts of these agencies. Let me digress a bit. You look at the National Commission for Nomadic Education, it's just like UNEC, interventionist agency established to cater for the basic education of the nomads. Talk about the nomads, you talk about the fisherfolk children, the fishermen children at the riverine areas. Their children, you know, they move with them, their assets. You follow them and you give them education. You look at the itinerant farmers, the farmers that move from one place to another, such of. But you know, when you look at the total population of these vulnerable groups, no, they account for over total capital budget is less than 1 billion. Look at that mismatch. So, second, you know, maybe leverage on some of the issues you raised that are very fundamental. Getting the right teacher about having schools. Nazir Ward primary school with the letters my PhD that are being channeled through the education system. Hitherto we have cluster. Perhaps maybe we look at that. Long over wings, children exposed. No, we have to really look at the sector generally, and we have to also we are said focused for me and the Committee on Alternative Education and other agencies under, including the Ministry of Education, working out, coming up with a model, a system, a separate system, an alternative system, where a child can have a choice to either go to basic education that is non-conventional or the alternative education model that maybe is accelerated. The child can have all it is the morality, in modern education, and in skills for productivity. I will share an experience. At the time we were in London, and a friend of mine wanted his house to be painted. We came out looking for how to find one. We went there, gave us a date and a time to go, and that's all. You see, and I believe we can.
Honorable has 3 titles now, I have just learned. Honorable Architect and Doctor. Congratulations on this, really on basic education. Below $1 billion capital is unrealistic. Happy particularly to hear that budget release is really a concern because we are almost 2 questions over here. We take some 3 questions from you. You bet it. And of course, the guidance on best practices. And part of it is technology. He mentioned the issue of edtech and technology takes to take it forward.
7 of these are special model schools located in each of the 6 geopolitical zones and the FCT. And they are providing a sort of model that is meant for states to replicate. This is a comprehensive pack that includes technology, processes, and teaching. Currently, UBEC is doing capacity development for not less than 978,000 teachers nationwide. And the core for each of these processes is the transition from the orthodox to modern means of teaching.
Currently, UVEC is also working with partners to deploy ICT devices for learning. We have 3 states of Oyo, Adamawa, and Kaduna that we've deployed not less than 60,000 tablets, and they're working effectively. Students who can learn remotely and have this kind of integration between what is taught in the class continuously and what they can pull from digital and online sources to complement learning. UVEC is very keen because currently the focus of the Executive Secretary, Dr. Aisha Garuba, is to move away from that normal trend of input to outcomes. That's why UVEC is currently emphasizing on learning outcomes as against the normal routine of a child leaves the house and goes to school, and the outcomes really partnership that goes on to local communities through the school to the learners. Thank you, sir. What we have as data says that 67.5% of teachers in Nigeria publish. What is in that regard?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and the House. What NUT, our honorable and other that much needed capacity building. Not only 67%, it should be 100%. Because we talk of a societal dynamics. I left the university over 30 years ago. The education, the kind of education I received that time has become obsolete to a reasonable level. Our teachers in the classroom, most of the things, their knowledge, their skills, their competencies need to be upgraded so that they will be in tune with the present realities in the academic.
Comrade, this is a good point, and I think I'll just stop you here. Yeah, yeah. You're making advocacy really with the situation. So this is it. I don't know. I'll test how well I've done my job but any burning question, I really have to. Okay. Any burning question. I'll take 2. I've got a gentleman, a lady. I hope it is the hand of a lady behind there. Excellently, yes, the student over there. Yeah, the 2 of you, please. Thank you. Your name, and then your question, please. Over to you.
My name is Olaoluwa Falana Karis, and my question is basic education. My question is, what's the difference between basic and higher education? That's my question.
Good, thank you for that. So basic and higher education. What is the difference? Yes, Mr. Oladimi, please. the National Assembly Library and Resource Center. I just want to take a minute to welcome you all to the facility. Welcome to the National Assembly. Welcome to this all-important dialogue. It is with a great pleasure that I extend my warm greetings to the organizers of this conference, distinguished stakeholders from government, civil society, the academia, and the private sector as we commemorate the International Day of Education. The theme of this conference, Reimagining the Future of Education in Nigeria, Collaborative Solutions for a Brighter Future, is timely and important. As technology changes how we learn, global competition demands new skills and fair access. So let me pause to recognize and especially welcome into the hall the Right Honorable Speaker of the Ninth Assembly, the Chief of Staff to Mr. President, my brother and my friend, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. You are welcome to the National Assembly, your baby. I continue. The National Assembly plays a critical role in shaping education through responsive lawmaking, effective oversight, and strategic appropriation. Strong legislation ensures policy continuity, institutional accountability, and sustainable reforms, making education actionable and measurable. As the Executive Secretary of the National Assembly Library Trust Fund, I am particularly mindful of legislative outcomes to present realities and anticipate future demands. We must strengthen collaboration between legislative and knowledge institutions, including libraries and research bodies. Evidence-based policy making is essential. Educational reforms should be guided by data, global best practices, and the experiences of Nigerians nationwide. As we deliberate today, I encourage all stakeholders to move beyond analysis and adopt practical, innovative, and inclusive solutions. We should prioritize digital transformation in education, teacher development, curriculum modernization, and equitable access for underserved communities. Our legislative framework must also be forward-looking, adaptable, and responsive to emerging trends such as artificial intelligence and digital learning ecosystems. The future of education in Nigeria requires intentional design, strategic legislation, and collective commitment. I commend the Office of the Speaker for convening this important dialogue and reaffirm the National Assembly Library's commitment to support knowledge-driven governance and sustainable education progress for our children and future generations. Once again, let me thank you for coming, and I wish this dialogue a very, very successful outcome. And on a final note, I would like to add that as we begin the year, in all the dialogues that we're going to be having in the National Assembly Library, I want to plead to our partners to expand the table. The theme today says Stakeholder Roundtable on the future of education in Nigeria. I would like to see a much expanded table where the action players that are needed and required to take the conversation forward are on the table so that we can start to implement those very important decisions that have been reached. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
We can do better with that round of applause for the Executive Secretary. But permit me at this juncture, he's done my job a little bit by having to introduce one of our principals that we pretty much hold in high esteem, the immediate past Speaker of the House of Representatives, who today doubles as the Chief of Staff to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's a bridge builder, even as an ambassador, so to speak, the ambassador of the National Assembly in the executive. He's a bridge builder between the legislature and the executive, and I can tell you categorically that he has demonstrated that leadership, and he's just not merely holding that office, but of course is also bent on building institutions. That's what he's been able to do gainfully with his present office as Chief of Staff. He has also championed critical moments in our democracy. Chief of Staff to the Executive Excellence. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency, the Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, CFR, for his remarks at this auspicious moment. Please, we can do better with that round of applause for him. Your Excellency, sir.
The leaders and members of the National Assembly here present, I see so many faces of my former colleagues, my friends, my brothers. Good afternoon to you all. The ES Executive Secretary, Library Trust Fund, my friend and brother, thank you very much for what you're doing here. Thank you for the upkeep of this place. Thank you for the phenomenal job that you are doing in keeping this library to the international standard that I walked in here just now and I was truly impressed. Thank you very much. Let me apologize first of all for my late entrance into this hall and this very important and auspicious occasion. I will not offer excuses, but I will just say that it was beyond my control. And those who know me know that when I say it was beyond me, then it was beyond me. I'm normally a very punctual person, so there was no disrespect, and I ask for you accept my apologies. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor for me to join you. That during my had far-reaching results, we issued our communiques, several reforms, passed through the labyrinth of the National Assembly. Education was perhaps, Laguda, who's here as well, has keyed in very, almost automatically on the issue of education. And it presently chairs one of the primary committees on education in the House. Thank you for doing a good job. Thank you for not letting through. Thank you so much. Fulata, God bless you. Thank you for all your support when I was in the House. One of the smartest members of the that's part of education. So during my tenure as Speaker of the Ninth House of Representatives, one of the landmark legislative initiatives we had the privilege at the time of championing the Students' Loans Bill. The objective was to ensure that no capable Nigerian student will be denied access to tertiary education on account of his financial hardship. The House at that time firmly believed that access to education must be anchored not on privilege, but on merit and potential. Upon my resumption as Chief of Staff to the President, it remained a matter of priority for me to see that this reform translated from legislative intent into enforceable national policy.
I'm therefore deeply honored that within the first 3 months of his administration, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, graciously and passionately too, if I must say, crossed the I's, or rather dotted the I's and crossed the T's to what we had passed in the House, and he accepted to the bill, thereby giving life to what is now being operationalized through the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund. That swift asset was a powerful signal of this administration's resolve to place education at the heart of the President's renewed hope agenda. I must also commend the 10th House of Representatives for building upon that foundation with commendable urgency and focus. In just a short span, the House has demonstrated a proactive legislative posture on education, strengthening oversight on tertiary education, funding mechanisms, advancing conversations around student welfare, and supporting reforms aimed at stabilizing our institutions and enhancing accountability in the education sector. This track record speaks to a legislature that understands both the scale of our challenges and the urgency of our response. Under the dynamic and intellectually rigorous leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, the House has shown clarity of vision and steadiness of purpose. His approach, grounded in scholarship, inclusivity, and institutional reform, has already yielded measurable legislative progress. Given what has been achieved thus far, I have no doubt that the 10th House, under his stewardship, will record even greater and more transformational feats in the educational sector. I am also informed that he very carefully, then deliberately employed or has in his office a special assistant, I believe, on education, some lady called Dioye Darocha Afodu, I believe. I looked at her pedigree and I was actually myself very, very impressed with the nature of her trajectory in the education field. Indeed, the trajectory is already evident. The commitment to strengthening foundational learning, expanding access, promoting inclusive education, and aligning tertiary outputs with national development priorities reflects a House that is not merely reacting to present demands, but strategically shaping the future. I am confident that this leadership will continue to translate legislative momentum into tangible, systemic impact, ensuring that education reform in Nigeria is not episodic, but enduring. And as Chief of Staff to the President, you can always count on my support, as I assure you that education will remain central to the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. This administration recognizes that economic competitiveness, social cohesion, and national security are intrinsically linked and heavily dependent on the quality of an education system. And so it must be. Ladies and gentlemen, because our demographic reality demands urgency and our global ambition demand excellence. So, distinguished participants, let this conference not merely generate conversation, but catalyze transformational impact. Let it produce actionable recommendations that strengthen legislative oversight, improve funding efficiency, and ensure that our laws are responsive to the realities of a rapidly changing world. And to our extraordinary speaker and honorable members of the 10th House and their respective teams, I commend your foresight and patriotism in convening this dialogue. May your deliberations today help shape a future in which every Nigerian child, regardless of geography, gender, or socioeconomic background, has access to quality education we strengthen today. Thank you for your attention, and may God bless the Federal Republic.
Thank you very much. If I were in your shoes, he has made some very strategic pronouncements, especially what is going to happen from here as he gets back to the office to relay this to His Excellency, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. If I were in your shoes, I would doff my hat. Give him a big round of applause, please. Now I invite those of you on the front row to join His Excellency here for a group photograph, as well as my daddy, please. And CBN Deputy Manager, please join. Yes. You're here. Please, Deputy Manager, man. CBN. Okay. Yes, Chimney, you don't want to join them? Please join them. The man from British High Commission, please. Ian. Oh, please hold it for him. Can we pave way for Ian to just walk through this? Then you can take the pictures afterwards. Please allow him. Please. Ian, please come. Please pave way for him. I need the man behind you. Excuse me, sir. Hello, sir. Please hold on. Spare him a few seconds to get you in, please. Actually, here. I think it's better for you here. That's right. We'll step back a bit. Or you can stand on the lower platform. Can you do it? Oh, thank you very much. Easy. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the stress. Thank you. Please let's have his expanded photograph, photo opportunity with His Excellency. And I must tell you, if you don't know, this edifice was House of Representatives, 9th House. Please can we applaud him one more time? Thank you so very much, sir. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Are we done with the photographs, photographer? Can we let go of them? Thank you very much. And due to the exigencies of the office, please, Mr. Richard Afodo. Thank you very much, Mr. Ian. Thank you, Abiola Arogundade. You can still stand with them for one more time. Yes, and Barrister Chindi. The Chief of Staff is still taking some private pictures, so you can still join in. Thank you. Please, we'll be settling down now for the next session, the next panel session. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. All right, I think they're going down now, so. All right, thank you very much, sir. Can we settle down so that we can get the second plenary underway very quickly for brevity of time? Do we have our panelists? The only thing of the Chief of Staff to the President, Paolo, I know. Prof. Okay, all right, please. Very quickly, for want of time, we want to just quickly go on now. The first person I'd like to invite over to this side will be Honorable Abakari Fuleta, Chairman of the House Committee on University Education in Nigeria. He has been actively involved in advocating for improvements in the education sector, particularly in universities. Some of his notable efforts are doing that is inclusive of advocating for salary increase. He proposed salary increments for teachers, suggesting $250,000 the removal of universities from IPPIS. He successfully advocated for the removal of that, and he's also getting the support of quite a good number of his colleagues, which he describes as anti-intellectual, anti-academics, and retrogressive. And we have the honor of inviting the Honorable Ifeoluwa Ehimdero. He's the Chairman of House Committee on Student Loans, Scholarships, Higher Education Financing, overseeing the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. He represents Akoko, Northeast and Northwest Federal Constituency of Ondo State. As Chairman, Ehimdero aims to ensure the Education Loan Fund operates efficiently and transparently between Nigerian students. He's committed to legislative oversight to strengthen the scheme's framework and implementation. He has led investigations into alleged mismanagement of the student loan scheme, including delayed disbursements and lack of transparency. As of June 30th, 2025, 73.1 billion had been disbursed to 366,247 students under his watch and across federal and state tertiary institutions. Please, a round of applause for him one more time. I have the honor of then inviting our next panelist, Honorable Fuad Kayode Laguda. He is the chairman of the House Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education in Nigeria. He is a member of the All Progressives Congress and represents Surulere 1 constituency at the Nigerian House of Representatives. As chairman, Laguda has been actively involved in promoting technical education and ensuring accountability in federal polytechnics. He is and has also sponsored bills to expand polytechnic functions and improve technical education, and has emphasized the importance of science, technology, and vocational education for Nigeria's development. He has conducted oversight visits to so very many institutions and also pushing transparency and better budget performance. He is committed to supporting legislation that enhances education quality and accessibility in Nigeria. Please, another round of applause for him, please. The next person to join us here will be Dr. Abiola Arogundade. I'll be offering you my seat. Dr. Abiola Arogundade is a senior special assistant to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on technical, vocational, and entrepreneurship education. She is a Nigerian politician with a robust academic background, holding a professional doctorate degree in business management with specialization in economics and finance from the City University of Paris. Some of our notable initiatives include, but not limited to, vocational training programs, promoting skills-driven education. The very last panelist needs no introduction. For those of you who have attended very many workshops, symposiums, and training programs and such as this one, he's a mentor by excellence. Professor Olu Raphael Aino is the chairman of the National Investors Commission Governing Board, appointed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the 13th chairman. He's a renowned educationist with a career spanning teaching at various institutions in Nigeria and abroad. Professor Aino has served as Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the National Business and Technical Examinations Board, NAPTEB, from 1992 to 2002, and was a member of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, from 2011 to 2015. Sitting today as NUC Chairman, Aino aims to align the Commission with President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, focusing on transforming Nigerian universities to be more competitive globally. I'll just keep it that brief. Please, a round of applause for Professor Olu Aino. Without much ado, well, I won't mind if I get one of the seats too, so that at this edge I can begin to file around my questions. Very quickly, without much ado, I'm going to go straight to the questions at this point, and I'll try to keep it pretty brief. We have 1 hour, 30 minutes, but organizers have said we can spend only 1 hour. And so without taking too much of our time, I will start with Honorable Fulata. We all have microphones, so. All right, let me start by firing the very first question. Chairman, House Committee on University Education. Honorable Fulata, your committee stands most urgently required to reposition Nigerian universities for global relevance and competitiveness.
My respected, fundamentally, there are a lot of areas for legislative intervention in our university system. If our if I have the fears to do so immediately, it will be to sharpen the edges of the University's Miscellaneous Act, reenact it with a view to ensuring the complete independence and autonomy of the university system. Currently, there are a lot of bureaucratic meddlesomeness, confusion, and misdirection and intervention by dramatist personnel that ought to leave our university system alone. A lot of meddlesomeness in terms of one, recruitment. Of course, we don't have a single act that applies sui generis. Virtually all the universities have their own individual acts. The committee is working towards creating a one single bill that applies to all our universities. But currently, they have to go through the ministry, they have to go through the budget office, they have to go through the NUC, they have to go through the National Universities Commission. Make specific provision for the governing councils, the powers of the governing councils. They are to hire and fire. So when an individual entity now tries to interfere with that process, you are killing the civil servants. What are you saying? Do you have the intellectual wherewithal to interview in the first place? The councils are well placed to interview those professors and employ them. In any case, when it comes to recruitment, they will now say, okay, we are giving you 200 to employ. Before you do that, give us 20, give us 30. Now those 30 or 20 do not go through the rigorous process. Some do not even have the intellectual capability to teach in the university. This is just one area. The same thing when it goes to come to appointment of to appoint vice chancellors. Neither the visitor, the president is the visitor, neither the visitor or any other the council. The law has made special provision of visitation for the visitor. If there's a problem in any university, the visitor has the power now to set up a visitation panel. The visitation panel goes on to do the investigation, conduct investigation. If the vice chancellor or any other person is guilty, then it recommends to the visitor. The visitor now sets up a white paper committee. The white paper committee now submits its report, and then council, the Federal Legislative Council, approve that white paper for implementation. So everything is wrong.
Yeah, but very quickly, this does not apply to state universities, does it?
Yes, it applies. The state universities are strictly under the supervision of the state governments. Okay, but then when it comes to accreditation and other quality assurance, they have to defer to the National Universities Commission. So that's everything is wrong with the educational system as far as issues of autonomy is concerned. I will do it. Then, if I have my way, I will enact a law to create synergy between research and industry. At present, in fact, lecturers in Nigeria have no reason to be poor. We have a lot of research findings collecting dust in our shell. There's a need, if it's let there be patent for that research product. And then there is a win-win situation between the gap, huge gap in that area.
Of the Committee on University Education. And as a legislature, why have you not pushed for these anomalies that you have recognized to be corrected?
Well, we've done, as you mentioned in your introduction, some legislative fireworks. It's not an act, but it's a fireworks. When it came to the issue of the IPPS, for example, when we noticed that there is a fundamental problem of IPPS, lecturers pulled together and combined along with other civil servants. And when you are on sabbatical, you don't get your sabbatical pay because the IPPS does not recognize almost all the allowances of university lecturers. It is programmed to recognize only what? Salaries. Anything outside, you cannot get someone from another university to come on sabbatical. There are a lot of allowances. So it is, I describe it as a single-minded computer program that is intellectual. And very luckily, Mr. President understood, he really magnanimous
can we curb this menace, and what recommendations at this point?
Again, it comes to doing things correctly. Compliance. A few months ago, somebody came to me to solicit support for the person's appointment as Vice Chancellor of a university, a particular university. Excuse me for not mentioning the university. I said, what do you have? She showed me all, he showed me all his credentials. When I look at it, I said, I'm very sorry, I cannot support you. I said, I'm sorry. He pleaded and pleaded. I said, no, I cannot. You can't. He said, I will become Vice Chancellor of that university. I said, good luck to you. Indeed, about 2-3 weeks later, he became Vice Chancellor of the university. Of course, that was my first engagement with Mr. President when I became chairman, since I became chairman of AUC in July of last year. Within 5 days of my bringing the matter to the attention of the president, the person was no longer Vice Chancellor.
The person was removed. That should elicit some clap here. Can we just make it a clap for him, please?
One of the other things that I have contributed to is that the way the establishment is going to be helpful to the nation. And again, the discussions led to the moratorium, which is, which was placed on the establishment of new universities. Again, the first people to violate that directive is the federal government itself. They've announced new universities, and I was shocked. So if the federal government is violating its own rules, its own directives, how do you deal with little May violating law? I'm so vulnerable you send me today. So if we must be determined, the determination is lacking.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let me go to the Chairman House Committee on Student Loans. Honorable Chairman, access to education defines opportunity. With the student loan framework now operational, what measurable transformation should Nigerians expect in the next 5 years? Vis-a-vis, how do we guarantee sustainability of the loan fund? What if after this regime and after the reign of President Bola Tinubu GCFR, a new government is in place and thinks that we don't need a student loan? And then, of course, what legislative safeguards or what legislative safeguards protect the scheme from abuse or politicization? That's part of what I just asked earlier. And how do we prevent default? Honorable Hindero.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that a nation definitely cannot go beyond the walls of its institutions. And these institutions also cannot grow beyond their legal, institutional, and regulatory framework. So looking at the Nigerian education, that first, it was administered by a special committee under the Central Bank of Nigeria. At that time, it was under the authority of the CBN governor, and there were a few clauses that over the years, the National Assembly felt like there was a need to repeal and reenact that law. So in 2024, there was a repeal and reenactment of that 2023 Act, which removed clauses like family income cap, which was mandatory that every beneficiary of the loan should come from a family whose parents should have like a 500,000 naira annual income. That was removed in 2024. And also, in 2024, there was the establishment of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, of course, from having the fund administered by a special committee. So the creation of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, which was signed into law in April of 2024 by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in 2024. So that also provided for a general reserve fund, which allows for the fund to receive sources of funding from an act of appropriations and other sources of funding, which 90% of what they receive would be disbursed to the benefit of students through their fees, and other fees are chargeable to the institution, and 10% of that would be for the operational cost of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund itself. The Nigerian tax accessible, a tax which is accessible profit of big companies, that is companies that earn more than 100 million naira turnover in a year and that have fixed assets of about not less than 250 million naira. So 4% of this levy, it has been mandatory that 15% of it should be used as a source of funding for the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. And this has sincerely increased access to higher education for Nigerian students. As of today, I think we have about 983,000 beneficiaries, student beneficiaries across the country.
That's increased from the figures
from last year.
All right.
Now we have, it was about 217 beneficial institutions at that time, but now we have 265 beneficial institutions, and they have disbursed a total of 183 billion naira. 107 billion of that was disbursed directly to the institutions for fees, school fees, and other fees payable to the institutions, and 76 billion was disbursed directly to the students for their upkeep. What this 4% development levy provides is more funding, which means Nigerian students would have access to this loan, and it will also increase, the number will keep increasing. And the reason why the National Assembly actually made sure that they jacked the numbers to 15% of 4% of the development levy was to ensure that we foresee a situation where we have more numbers of students. So that 15% should be able to accommodate embedded in the Nigerian, even after His Excellency.
But let me just quickly add up. This is called the Student Loan Scheme. Student Loan Fund, rather. Is there a payback mechanism, and how does it apply?
Okay, so basically, beneficiaries are required to pay back after they must have completed their NYSC. There's a 2-year moratorium, and it will be 10% of your income, only if you have an income. It's an interest-free loan. Only if you have an income. Definitely, the agency is working with other agencies like the NIMC, BVM, the CBN, and they definitely will put mechanisms in place to make sure that when you have an income, the deductions will take place. But they have made it clear that beneficiaries that are facing hardship,
Who's obtained this loan, decides that he doesn't have a saving in a bank, and so whatever monies he gets is kept somewhere in his private pocket, and so you can't even access the account in question through BVN or any of those other mediums where you can actually deduct. It's redundant because nobody's correct.
And employers are also being encouraged that if they employ anybody, they should look at the history of their student loans.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. I hope most of us that are sitting here, this question applies, I'm sure. If it does, please can we give him a round of applause? Let me come to the Senior Special Assistant before I move over to Honorable Lahuda. As a Senior Special Assistant to the President of Technical Vocational Entrepreneurship Education, Doctor, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there is a renewed focus on skills and entrepreneurship. So, how how is the administration integrating technical and vocational education into Nigeria's national economic blueprint? And what legislative instruments are needed to scale up apprenticeship systems in the country? And how do we change the cultural narrative that prioritizes degrees over skills? This is very key to me, and I'm sure to the audience here.
Thank you very much. Let me stand on existing protocol. I'll just go into a few statistics. So right now, the semi-skilled figure is at 52%, while the highly skilled is at 18%, and low skilled is at 30%. What we're trying to do is move the highly skilled to 18%. And how are we trying to do this? By making sure that we encourage people to be trained and go into vocational skills. We have different kinds of technical, vocational, and entrepreneurial skills across Nigeria. Commercialization of universities research. So we have a new intervention with the Ministry of Education, which is called the National Research to Commercialization. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Okay, which is just been initiated. We've set up two committees. One is the steering committee and one is the policy drafting committee. And what we're trying to do there is put committees together to start to research on how we can make researches that come from university to monetize them. So once you have a research, we want to make sure that there's a partnership with the students doing this research and the institute where they come into a partnership and they can have a percentage of what we can come out of the research. We're also setting up technology transfer offices where the technology can be transferred to industries for a fee. So this fee, the universities will have a certain percentage which they can use to fund themselves and also use to fund the technology centers and even vocational centers, so that where there's a lapse in funds or not enough funds, these funds can be used to regenerate the centers in the universities. Another thing we're looking at is the Bordeaux Act, which is the act that was used in USA, where they have a law that says that all intellectual property must be commercialized, and they're in partnership with the universities, the students, and the government. And between this act was it was actually formed in 1980, and since 1996 to 2021, the American economy have been able to increase their GDP by 2 trillion. So this is something that Nigeria can adopt, and of course, we have to work very closely with the lawmakers and legislation for them to put a structure in place. So this will be actually coming very soon, because the committees were just set up about 2 weeks ago. So they're just putting members. So these are the kind of interventions that the president is doing. And another methodology that we're using is like the one in Germany, which is called the half hoc system, where they have two kinds of universities. So rather than calling them vocational centers and tertiary centers, they call them academic universities and science-skilled universities. While the academic universities focus on the theory, and they focus on the theory, then transfer the theory to the skilled science universities who produce the products, then sell the products to the industry to make income. And a share is given to the university, a share to the students, and a share to the government. And this helps the government to develop finances to finance the GDP of the country, to finance the university itself. So where there's not enough money in the national budget, there's income coming in through the research sector, the students are intervention of technology. So this is something that we're working on in the Ministry of Education, and it's very new. I also sit on the Committee of Skills with the Vice President. So these are all the things that we're bringing to legislation, because if there's no law, there's no structure, and we cannot do anything without legislation. So we're bringing it for a law to be in place where universities are mandated to make sure that all the research and technology that comes out of the universities are sold to the industries, and there's a stream of income for both the university, the government, and the students.
So where is the place of polytechnics in this arrangement?
So polytechnics so all this research also come out of polytechnics. So even if you're in a polytechnic and you're doing research and whatever intervention you bring out of the polytechnics, we're going to also use that to monetize it and work with the industry. So we're trying to be more industry focused, and that was what our mandate was from the beginning, to find out the solution to increase our GDP.
Compulsory across tertiary.
Vice President on skills. So that's one of the things that we're looking into. So we're doing some research and looking at how other countries have done it, how it works, the know-how. So it's one of the interventions and one of the project sub-committees that we're working on to see how we can invite that into our own culture, into our own country, and see how successful that would be. So it's something that we've thought about, something that the president is thinking about, and something that we have committees already set up about.
All right. So in a nutshell, regulation, however, remains the backbone of quality assurance in our tertiary institutions. Let me come to Honorable Fuad Kayode Laguda, Chairman House Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education. Honorable, industrial growth rests heavily on technical competence, as we all know. And questions I'd like to ask here will be, how can legislation elevate polytechnic and higher technical education to become through drivers of Nigeria's industrial revolution? And should the HND and BSc dichotomy finally be resolved through legislation? I have a follow-up question, but I need you to quickly respond to this before I come up.
Thank you very much for that. I'll start with the second question between HND and BSc, which is.
You are not clapping.
We have that ongoing, but you see, on a lighter note, like we have on this panel now, with all due respect to Madam SSA, you have to remind her of Polytechnic. A lot of us don't, in this environment, in our society, we put the Polytechnic last. So how can it encourage or help the industries? That is where the technical things are being taught, but they are seen as being unemployable. Yes, the Polytechnic sector has this issue. This 10th assembly is the first time that the Polytechnic is having its own dedicated committee. And I'm getting because they are not seeing a lot of improvement because the concentration or the monitoring on them, it's a bit low. Commission, like we have the University Commission. Even the teachers have their own commission. The senior secondary school has its own commission. The Polytechnic does not. Has also affected or infected the Polytechnic society, from the lecturers to the students. You know, the confidence is no longer there.
It's trust.
So they without the Polytechnic sector that would improve that sector. Can improve it is when it gets enough improvement and we give back that confidence that you could see it in the industrial sector. But in all my times being here, I've had the opportunity once to meet with a man, I've forgotten his name now and his company, but he's into ship repairs. And he said confidently that he employs Polytechnic students because they are more technical than the university student. And like we all know, university is for theory, Polytechnic is for technology.
Yes, I agree with that. But what have you also done with your committee to ensure that you balance it up by having the federal government to
the second reading put together? So we're moving on it. So I'm sure in due course and time, things are going to come up and we're going to see these things.
Let me come back to Honorable Fulata very quickly. and I think this will be winding down in a short while. Knowing full well that we're given 1 minute, 1 hour, 30 minutes. If you have any question, I'd like that you hold on to it. We might take a few more questions than the very first session. But let me come to you, Honorable Flatter. Should we be reviewing the Universities Miscellaneous Provisions Act? And I think after you, I'd like Prof to also lend his voice to this. And how do we use this stronger research funding framework? This has been one of the greatest challenges bedeviling research work in our universities and tertiary institutions. And what structural bottlenecks do you think require urgent amendment now that we have little time on our hands?
If you permit me,
please increase the microphone for him.
If you permit me, I want to touch briefly on the comments by Professor Oluayena on corruption in universities, and also my good friend's remarks on the bill on dichotomy between degrees and HNDs. Prof, it's a wonderful thing that you said about the corruption in the university. The Constitution, sections 88 and 89 of the Constitution, has empowered the National Assembly to investigate and expose corruption. Ours is to investigate and expose. The issue is that of implementation of our report. Every year I go on oversight. There's one particular environment, I'm not mentioning names. Every year that university generates over 10 billion. But every year there is about 5 billion that is not accounted for. And the moment you start, I will start receiving calls from all. Listen, please leave that man alone. That's our situation. Our acts are limited to only those that refuse to attend our invitations. When we invite you, you refuse to come and attend to our invitation. We have the power under Section 89 to arrest you, compel the IG to arrest you. But the moment the IG arrests you and bring you to
powers,
yeah.
if it is embedded in the Constitution.
I'm part of the Constitution Amendment Committee, but that's not one of the issues to be amended. On my friend's bill, Honorable Fuad, I will oppose that bill. I will oppose that bill. Engineering, for example, train you to be and repair the engine when it gets hot. So unless you are able to change the cost content of the HND to come in at par with the university, there are two that they are seeking to achieve different aims. This one is seeking to train a technician, and the other one is trained to produce an engineer. So unless you are able to change the cost content, I will
respond to this aspect of your opposing to the bill of HND and BSc. Can we just get your buy-in quickly?
Thank you very much. Honorable Flatter, I'm sure you will oppose the bill. I'm very certain about that. The bill is not about holders of this degree. HND holder max gets to level 14. You can't go beyond that. A BSc holder gets to level 17. Meanwhile, a BSc holder in most cases spends 4 years for his course. Experience in between. So it's about equating it. It's not to HND. We have a lot of people for the results that if I go to a polytechnic, first and foremost, they will see me as a failure. Then what would I get a job at the end of the day? What is the end point for me? So, Honorable Fulata, that's why I said I'm sure you won't oppose the bill.
Okay, I think it's getting a lot more interesting. I see Prof. He's raised his hands already. Before I come back to you, Honorable Flatter, on the issue of the research funding framework, let me hold on a second. Let me just get the buy-in on Professor Aina. He just said he needed to say something very quickly. Prof.
I think this issue of HND versus BSc will be resolved, it will resolve itself when Nigeria's economy goes to industry, it is because people think they are being educated to go and be civil servants. That is why you are talking of level 9, level somebody with the equivalent of a technical college who is a plumber in the UK. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's more like another question. So, Honorable Flatter, it comes back to your table at the moment. I see this elicited some clap. If you intend to make it a clap, go ahead. Can we go on? Yes, Honorable Fulata.
Yes, thank you. The major constraints for getting adequate funds for research is entrenched in our budgetary system. Currently, we are operating the envelope system. Each institution is allocated a particular amount of fixed money for the entire university. So hitherto, when are allowed to present their budgets, and the committees of the House look into those budgets and determine the amount to be given to each university. From their internally generated, and most of them, research is not a priority. And we have other institutions also, they can also liaise with industries if the researches are relevant to related to any the progress of any industrial
I think when we look at the corruption laws, the legislatures, any corruption that is linked to education should be punished heavier than any other corruption, in my opinion. That way, people will know that when you don't give education, you are killing people. It should be heavily punished. In China, you dare not. You dare not. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed. Honorable Hinder, let me just say that time is of the essence. We're winding down very quickly. One last line from you in respect of Nelfon. What do you think we should see differently from now? You've done well with oversight functions and the AC more faster, especially the aspect of accessing the loan.
Thank you very much. In the course of our oversight last year in November, we noticed that a lot of beneficial institutions are finding it difficult to administer the loan because they made complaints about not having.
Please, can we have some quiet, please? Gentlemen at the back, can we have some quiet, please? Thank you.
They complained about not having enough budgetary provision to administer the loan, just like Honorable Flatter had earlier said, that we run an envelope system. And that envelope system hardly gives room. Yes, so we run an envelope system like Honorable Flatter said, and these beneficial institutions that actually administer these loans, they don't have budgetary provision for administering the loans. So what we now decided to do is to amend the Act, which will be done this 2026, to increase the percentage on operational costs from the part of the agency as it is. So if we increase that to 20% and then do disbursement to 80%, it will enable these institutions to have enough. They've been finding it hard.
I want to ask Honorable Lagoda. You have your microphone? Yes, please. Do you think so?
I think if there is something more than first line charge, more experts more than first line charge, I think education deserves that.
If you could amend one law right now,
Yes.
To amend the laws or to transform tertiary education, what do you think it should be? Just one line.
Universities Miscellaneous Act.
To lend your voice to that. Prof, you have the last line after Dr. Abiola. Yes, I said if there is any law to amend today, looking at it from your perspective as a legislator.
Okay, so it's important for me to emphasize that I'm Loan Act, which is part of to benefit from the Student Loan Act. But today we don't have a centralized system that monitors all the scholarship programs that are funded by the federal government. So the Committee on Student Loans, my committee that I chair, which has passed through second reading on a centralized platform. And it will also create for the establishment of a proper federal government scholarship pool, which will not be just.
I guess for me, as the chairman of Federal Polytechnic and Higher Technical Education, I will move for not just stop at the tertiary, but look down and go like vocational studies and still like graduation at each level.
Even in the universities?
At each level, meaning from primary to secondary, junior, secondary. But if I could look back a little, I'm sure, well, I'm young, but my year when I was in school, I know vocational studies was compulsory. I mean, I could say that then because I was not too good with my hands. I couldn't do technical drawing. I was doing food and nutrition. You know.
Oh.
Yes. Awesome. So, I mean, if it could be looked into and that could be done, it would go a long way. I mean, there could be laws, but harmonize these laws and make it some sort of compulsory as a prerequisite for graduation.
All right. Fulata said you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was not part of the panelists that discussed the issue of basic education. But if I were in that panel, my contribution would be that no country can develop neglecting its indigenous language. The Chinese learn and train their children in Mandarin. The Indians are developing because they teach their children in Indian language. Even the Arabs that were colonized under Pax Britannica, Africa, a lot of African countries, Asian countries, Latin American countries, including the United States of America, were colonized by the British. But on getting their independence, they copied all texts were translated into the language, indigenous language of those people. What is gravity in Yoruba language? Immediately, tell me. Gravity. What is gravity in Yoruba language? Gravity, yes. Yeah. So this is the issue. You can't understand towards genuine national development. So this is for another time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Professor Aino, I had said I was going to give you the last line, but Dr. Abiola has said she doesn't have any contribution. We're supposed to have x-rayed some aspects of TED Fund, but we couldn't because Princess Mary Amonoha, who would have been on the panel, is unavoidably absent. But quick one, because I know that you are very grounded and all-rounder. Is Nigeria ready for a full performance-based funding of TED Fund? Because today we talk about challenges every now and then. Innovation hubs. Should TED Fund funding extend more aggressively into innovation funds?
Now, the way the TED Fund law is drawn up, it does not permit the fund to go outside higher education, because it is the higher education people that actually fought for that law. But if I may, the ASU federal government to attract good. The public did not know this as much as they should, that one of the outcomes of the recent negotiation, which was concluded with the federal government, is that university education will get 1% of GDP every year. That's about, it is not money that should be taken lightly. Given the current wealth of the education, all the noise about lack of funding, all the noise about not enough money for research, all the noise about not being able to attract the best brains. If there is a way, there will be no more ASU strike in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much indeed. And this is not accidental, and it must be legislated intentionally and measurably too. But let me say we develop sustainably. Thank you so much for your wealth of experience to have you on platforms such as we hope that this conversation, and for the reasons that she's been doing a yeoman's job behind the scenes, and until this platform gave us an opportunity to interact, invite the convener to please Chimdi. Chimdi, please join us, not your husband. Husband to our convener, our assistant convener. Please, archives, please let the conversation come. Please, we'll take 2 questions. And the 2 questions are going to come like this. One from you, one from the student, and then Ian will give us the 3rd question. You can share your questions with me. Please, quickly, can we get the microphone to her, please? I thank you all. Madam, is it you or your student that wants to ask? Yes, so I know you're standing for her, so don't worry, be seated. Can we get the roving microphones quickly, please? No, hold on. I've not said you should speak. Increase her mic so that when she's speaking, we can hear you. We'll start because we've been sitting for quite a long while. Yes. What's your name and the name of your school?
Yes, my name is Farida.
That will be answered. Okay, next. Yes, for Honorable Fulata. No, Honorable Laguda. Okay, Honorable Fulata and Honorable Laguda, if need be. Yes, while we are still standing. Yes, please. Your question, your name. Can we get the mic to her? They are bringing the mic quickly.
Good afternoon. All protocols duly observed. My name is Isabel Anani. I am a
No,
young.
don't rush your name. That's the most important aspect. You must say your name deliberately, be deliberate.
My name is Isabel Anani. I am a UNICEF Young Influencer and the one-day Speaker of House of Representatives. And my question is, you know how there's a running joke that people who get diplomas, so technical school, do all the work, while people who get bachelors or any initiatives at all serve as a liaison between the two, bringing both ideas together, seeing as they are both very essential.
Battlefield from the British High Commission. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I listened with great interest to the panel on higher education. Clearly, Nigeria has developed its own higher education, but a lot of it has been built on the foundations. I think to answer one of the earlier questions, all UK polytechnics became universities, although there is a question about what tiers of universities now and the relative merits of degrees and the like. The thing I suppose wanted to comment on was I think that on that transition about NEL fund and loans, there's still a large, I guess, expectation of scholarships, not loans in Nigeria. Certainly the UK has, had transitioned to tertiary loans 10 to 20 years ago, and there's a continual legislative debate about how to try to do repayments. The UK's advantage is that 70 to 80% of ex-graduates are actually on pay-as-you-earn salary jobs, and their repayments are capped, but they're taken at source. If you try to force people to make repayments from salaries, even if you have their bank account details, that's going to be challenging. Partnerships in tertiary education, not in terms of funding scholarships and the like, but actually to share some of those policy and legislative experiences we've had in terms of adapting and evolving our tertiary education system. And so that's something I'll be following through with panel members and other members from the Thank you very much.
Thank you. This gives us an opportunity for you to interface with the various committees, and then they can bring this to their knowledge. And when they organize public hearings, if you don't mind, it should be the invitation should be extended to you, such that you can come and even shed some more light and see how we can also partner in developing our education curricula and, of course, the education sector at large. Honorable Laguda, Honorable Fulata, first of all. Yes.
Thank you very much. You asked about the difference between polytechnics and universities. Now, the difference is not only in the nomenclature, but also in the course content, as I explained the other time. And polytechnics were deliberately created to produce technicians, give technical education. And the course content lays a lot of emphasis on practicals. The course content of polytechnics lays emphasis more on practicals than theory. On the other hand, universities lays emphasis both on theory and practicals. The others create mechanics, okay, they train mechanics and so forth. Whereas universities train engineers. They are the ones who design the engine in the first place and gives it to the manufacturer to do what? To manufacture. This is what, as far as I understand, the difference in this thing. And then
thank you very much, Honorable Fulata. You've given an in-depth explanation, so I'll just summarize it for, I think, Farida, Command School. Just to say university is more of theory
and you have people syllabus ongoing, unlike Polytechnic that stops at HND. University, you could go all the way to doctorate degree. So Polytechnic is basically technical. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think that is about it from our end here. And I thank you very much for your attention. My brother, the moderator of the last panel, you did another great job, and you ought to be commended, and your panelists as well. Thank you very much. God bless you. My name is Andy Gabriel. God bless you. We're staying back briefly. Refreshment is being served, but we're expecting the better half of the Speaker House of Representatives, who also has a program at the House of Representatives chamber. It just closed, and so she's on her way here to declaring these very roundtable closed. So please kindly give us another 10 minutes of your time or thereabout, please. Thank you very much, and do have a great day.
That thing, that shows that speaker. That shows that speaker. If you record things, you see your video, this is very nice. You do anyhow. You do not. So anytime I listen to that thing, so you go see on 1/60 or 1/5. Or this normal camera, for example, you see or 50. You get. So as it be like this now, if you see on motion blur, you can get motion blur. Like this now, so this 16. So the one now they use for football, they increase and go the highest. I say clear the whole, you see motion blur. Like this your own now. As the Lord already talk to you, it's really big person.
Please come close for us, and now we can all go home. Thank you very much. Please. Yes, the wife is on her way to declare this roundtable closed. Please. Please.
Record format. Can they shoot 25 frames per second? Then you go to take and make for this one 21/60. And then you shoot the record format. It's still okay like this.
Please, stewards. Hold on. Can we get those in charge of the foods to bring the ones for the panelists?
Should I bring more? Yes.
So this one now you consider all your audio this way you want to start. You understand? 1080 to 50 frames per second. This one now I then come down. You want shoot on 25, 25, 28. You want shoot on 25, 25, 25. Down 1080 per 25 frames per second. Anyone you want to na beat, then FH, anyone you want to. So you set an now through this frame rate now you put set. Not your go make your right. Okay, see this one now. If I'm taking now move this my short term now. If not, if you say the thing will be land, if person dey waka, maybe I see the person dey land.
No, she was Errol. But somebody else. Very nice this pictures came out. This way she did.
Please, can we all come back to the hall? The Speaker House of Representatives is here now. Can we please settle down? The Speaker is here himself. Please, okay? Just sit down first. Sit down first. Just sit down, please. Somewhere at the back. Please. Honorable members that are still here, please let's settle down. And you pave way for the Speaker House of Representatives, ably represented here by his very lovely wife. Please put your hands together for her. Please settle down very quickly. Please let's settle down. Mr. Iron, please you can sit down there. Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. Your Excellency, we are aware that your day has been a very choked up day with a program that you also hosted at the House of Representatives chamber, and you have also found time out of your very busy schedule to be here with us. We appreciate you. Please put your hands together for Our Excellency one more time. We had 2 technical sessions on this roundtable convened by your husband's office, and we looked at 2 very critical topics. The first one was reforming basic education in Nigeria through effective legislation, priorities for the next decades. We had panelists like Haji Aisha Garuba, Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commission, who was represented. Dr. Mohammed Sani Idris, Executive Secretary, National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children, who was equally represented. Honorable Mukhtar Tolani Shagaya, who was here made present. Comrade Audu Titus, National President, Nigerian Union of Teachers, was unavoidably absent on alternative education, was around. Honorable Oboko Abosinzibe of Forji was unavoidably absent, but we had someone representing. And quite a good number of the House of Representative members that were scheduled to be here were all here except about 1 or 2 of them who also have other engagements. And so we had the second session, which dealt on the university education, and we had Honorable Abakar Folata, Chairman House Committee on University Education, We also had the likes of Honorable Adamu Tanko, Chairman House Committee on Federal Colleges of Education. We equally had with us Honorable Fuad Kayode Laguda. It was that last session we just finished. The President of Technical Vocational Entrepreneurship Education, Honorable Professor Olu Raphael Aino, our father and mentor, Chairman National Universities Commission Board, also participated, and as you can see, just whilst he was told that you are already on your way here, decided to return to the hall to join us for your closing remarks, and of course to also declare this roundtable closed. We also had the likes of Honorable Miriam Onoha, who couldn't make it because she's out of Abuja. So, Your Excellency, we also field questions from participants, and that actually is where we drew the curtain. It's as a result of that now that we want to then invite you to give us your remarks and then move to close this event. We will do that, but just before then, please permit me, I want to quickly just introduce one or two more persons. Your Excellency, I've just been told that before we invite you to the podium for your remarks and closing remarks, that we should get the team that were carefully selected, who will painstakingly from the minute we got started up and sitting down here, to please come forward with a presentation of the communique, after which we will then invite Her Excellency to give us her remarks and then declare this roundtable closed. But so please, let me have the pleasure of recognizing the presence of Honorable Shina Oyedeji. Honorable Shina Oyedeji is the Deputy Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Ecology. We'd like to welcome Mr. Please, a round of applause for her. Yeah. So, the team for the communique, can we have you please quickly? And all we want from you is just a brief preamble, and then you go to recommendations and conclusion. Please pave way for him. I quite don't have your name when you get here. I crave an indulgence to please introduce yourself. There's a round of applause for him one more time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please permit me to stand on existing protocol. I think the moderator has done a very wonderful job in setting that straight up. My name is Ode. I'm with the PLANE program, supported by FCDO. Well, thank you. I'm with the PLANE project, supported by FCDO, and I'll be taking the communique worked together by myself and my colleagues just right behind. But just to quickly run through, like we all know, the title for the program is Stakeholders Roundtable on Imagining the Future of Education for a Brighter Tomorrow, held on February 16, 2025. Please pardon me again to stand on existing protocol. This roundtable has acknowledged that Nigeria's education system is at a critical inflection point, characterized by persistent underfunding, weak learning outcomes, high number of out-of-school children, teachers shortages, infrastructure deficits, which are related to technology advancement, as well as those related to persons living with disabilities, as well as weak coordination across the tiers of government. Participants and panelists have also recognized that we need to further recognize that while recent reforms have been very helpful, like NEL Fund, digital examination reforms and education data programs that are positive, fragmented implementation and weak accountability continue to limit impact. According to stakeholders here, we have reached the following resolutions, action commitments, and timelines, including institutional responsibilities, which we've documented in in our own words and how we understand it. So permit us if we're not speaking the language in which you understand, but we've been able to document, number one, education, financing, and budget accountability. The actions which we listed is to establish a medium-term education financing benchmark that progressively increases education allocation towards internationally recommended thresholds. I think part of the conversation also mentioned between 1 to 2 or 2 to 5%, but international recommended threshold is about 15% for education financing. Second bullet point under this is to strengthen legislative oversight of education appropriations, which we had largely around the panel sessions which were held, including releases and utilization across MDAs. Another point is to mandate annual public disclosure of education budget performance at the federal level and inclusive of the state levels. The institutional responsibility which we have listed cuts across the Senate and House committees on education and appropriations, the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Budget Office of the Federation, as well as UBEC. The timeline which we propose is about 6 months, also inclusive of public hearings and public reporting beginning from the 2026 budget cycle. Number 2 is around teachers' workforce reform and professionalization. The agreed actions which we listed is to develop and legislate a national teachers' workforce strategy. Not to duplicate anything that is in existence, but we think a national teachers' workforce strategy will be very helpful in addressing recruitment, deployment, continuous professional development, and all that is required to support teachers. Another point is to prioritize teachers' recruitment for underserved, rural, and conflict-affected areas. One of the things we also heard is the discrepancies between urban and rural areas and how we're able to address teachers that cuts across all of these places around Nigeria. The third bullet point is also to harmonize teachers' data across the federal and state systems to support workforce planning. The responsibilities across institutions will be the National Assembly Education Committees, Federal Ministry of Education, the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, as well as states UBEC listed here. We're hopeful that this can be achieved or planned across 9 months with phased implementation between 2026 and 2030. The third action point which we have is out of school children and inclusive access. Actions listed here is to launch a national data-driven out of school children reduction plan with state-specific targets. I hear a lot of data collection on the panel, which I think might be useful in planning. So we thought this might be helpful to have a national data-driven out of school children reduction plan with state-specific targets. Another point is to integrate education interventions with social protection, nutrition, and community-based strategies. When we were thinking about this, it's also, on a lighter note, we know the stomach infrastructure. If students are not able to get food to eat, I mean, our plans might not work, but again, just to see that we integrate education interventions with social protection programs which are already running, nutrition and community-based security strategies. The third point on this is to prioritize girls' education, children with disabilities, and nomadic and displaced populations. The responsibility across the institutions will be listed: the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, as well as the National Social Investments Program, including the state governments. We plan that the plan should be adopted within 6 months. Also, state level implementation between 2026 to 2028. This didn't come out strongly, but again, we thought it was important to add curriculum relevance and skills for the future strongly here. The agreed actions is to accelerate implementation of curriculum reforms emphasizing on digital literacy, critical thinking, which also leads to learning outcomes, nomadic and vocational skills, as well as civic education. Another work pathways through partnership with the private sector, and we found this very interesting to see that the stakeholders, which we have listed, the private sector also plays a huge role in this conversation. The last bullet point on this action talks about the review and updates curricula every 5 years to reflect the labor market. We know things have changed, and in the current conversations around the globe looks largely around trade. So we think the labor market's conversation and technological shifts would fit into this conversation here. The responsibility goes to the Federal Ministry of Education, which holds a large burden around this, the National Board for Technical Education, as well as private sector and industry bodies here. We think this curriculum roll-up can scale up between 12 to 24 months and institutionalized review cycle commencing from 2027. The fifth action point here is education data, monitoring and evidence-based governance, which we heard loudly on the two panel sessions that held here. The agreed actions cuts across mandates the use of national education data systems for planning, budgeting as well between federal and state education. I mean, a lot of education professionals, organizations, institutions, even development partners are also doing this, but again, in the best interest of the stakeholder conversation, as well as connecting all of us together, we thought it might be helpful to have one national education performance scorecard which we can act on. The responsibility goes to the Federal Ministry of Education, the National Bureau of Statistics, the State Ministries of Education, as well as the National Assembly, to the National Assembly for hosting us. It looks across actions that cuts with establishing a joint legislative and executive education reform monitoring forum, to convene a biannual progress review sessions, with MDAs and state representatives, also to align education reforms with national development and human capital strategies. I'll skip the institutions for now, just to conclude and say that it is important to note that stakeholders here have reaffirmed that education is a national security concern, also an economic growth concern, as well as social cohesion priority. The successes of these resolutions basically depend on our sustained political will, coordinated implementation across the tiers of government, and transparent accountability mechanisms. This communique represents a shared commitment to move beyond dialogue, which we've had today, to delivery, ensuring that education becomes the foundation for Nigeria's long-term development and democratic stability. I will stop here for now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Please can we put our hands together for him one more time? Thank you, and thank you very much indeed. We'll move for adoption, but before the adoption, can someone support, or rather raise the motion for adoption? Not you, yes. Can one of us just move? Of course, because I'm sure that captured virtually everything that happened here today. Can we just do that quickly? Time is of the essence. Can someone move? You can just move. Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Mikaelu Ibrahim. So you nodded. All right, I hope you're taking down the names, Dr. Mikaelu Ibrahim and Elijah Yewole. The two of them have moved, and so can we then quickly put it to vote? Those in favor that this communique be adopted, say aye. Those against, say no or nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I have practiced the job of your husband here, the wife of the Honorable Speaker. Thank you. And I think at this point, it is very pertinent to bring these to a close. Your Excellency, Hajiya Fatima Tajuddin Abbas, wife of the Speaker, House of Representatives, and President Forum of Wives of Honorable Members, and First Lady of the House of Representatives, Your Excellency Dr. Ezinne Benjamin Okezie, the wife of the Deputy Speaker, all honorable members here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please a round of applause as we invite Hajia Fatima Abbas, Your Excellency, to then give us your remarks and then finally help us close this one-day national roundtable. Can I have another round of applause for Our Excellency? Your Excellency.
The wife of the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu Sheikh, my dear husband, brother, and confidant, my dear sister. The Chairman Nel Fund, Honorable Ifedwa Ihenderu, my dear husband's colleague, brother, and as well my son. The Deputy Chairman Ecological Fund, Honorable Shina Oyedeji, my husband's colleague and brother. The Senior Education Advisor, British High Commission, Ambassador Ian Atfield. The Convener, Mrs. Bisoye Afodu. The SA to the Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, GCON, my amiable husband and educationist. He was the HOD Accounting and Finance in KASU. He was a lecturer at Nuhu Bamali Polytechnic. He was also a primary school teacher. He attended Kasina Teachers College. Professor Oluremi Aina, the SA Finance to the Speaker, Honorable Lukman Oyewole Lawal, the SA on Policy and Strategy to the Speaker, Barrister Chimdi, distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. I am deeply honored to join you today at this important stakeholders roundtable on reimagining the future of education in Nigeria. Collaborative solutions for a brighter tomorrow. This gathering could not have come at a more critical time in our nation's history. Education remains the strongest foundation for national development, social stability, economic productivity, and democratic growth. I commend the leadership of the 10th House of Representatives and my dear sister here, the Special Assistant to the Speaker on International Cooperation and Education Development, Mrs. Abisoye Afodu, for convening this dialogue as part of their constitutional responsibility to provide legislative direction and strategic oversight for the progress of our nation. The focus of the summit on policy formulation and legislative review is both timely and necessary. Our Education Trust Fund Act have provided structure for many years. However, evolving realities demand that we continuously examine and strengthen these laws to address emerging gaps, improve implementations, and align them with present-day challenges. Legislative reform must be evidence-based, inclusive, and forward-looking, ensuring that no child is left behind in our national development agenda. Equally important is the summit's emphasis on oversight and accountability. The role of the National Assembly does not end with passing laws. It extends to ensuring that institutions such as UBEC, TEDFON, JAM, NECO, and NELFON operate efficiently, transparently, and in alignment with national goals. Strengthening oversight mechanism will guarantee that public resources allocated to education translate into functional classrooms, trained teachers, accessible student loans, improved examination system, and measurable learning outcome. Accountability is not punitive, it is a safeguard for progress and public trust. Distinguished participants, the challenge of out-of-school children remains one of the most pressing educational concerns in our country. Behind every statistic is a child whose dreams are at risk of being deferred. Addressing this crisis requires coordinated legislative action, robust implementation, and community engagement. It demands that we confront issues of poverty, insecurity, gender inequality, and inadequate infrastructure with courage and compassion. The renewed hope agenda of our dear President and Father, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, places human capital development at the center of national renewal. Education is the engine that powers this vision. By strengthening our laws, deepening oversight, expanding access to student financing, and investing in teachers' quality infrastructure, we are laying the groundwork for a more competitive and inclusive Nigeria. To our policymakers and education leaders present here today, I urge you to approach these deliberations with openness and resolve. Let this roundtable not be another conversation that ends in documentation alone. Let it produce actionable recommendations, measurable timelines, and collaborative framework that will reshape the trajectory of education in our country. To our development partners and private sector stakeholders, your role is indispensable. Innovation, technology, integration, digital learning platforms, and sustainable funding models are essential to modernizing our education system. Together, we can ensure that Nigerian children are not only educated, but equipped with the skills necessary to thrive in a rapidly evolving global economy. As we reimagine the future of education, let us remember that the ultimate beneficiaries of our decisions are the young boys and girls in rural communities, the children in urban slums, the students striving in overcrowded classrooms, and the youth seeking opportunities for higher learning. Their aspiration must remain at the center of every legislative amendment, of every oversight hearing, and every policy reform. Personally, through the work of my foundation, Fatima Tajuddin Abbas Foundation, I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to supporting initiatives that expand access to education and reduce the number of out-of-school children and girl child education in Nigeria. We stand ready to continue partnering with government institutions, community leaders, and development partners to build a brighter and more inclusive future. It is my sincere hope that this summit will mark a turning point, a moment where collective responsibility translates into decisive action. May our discussion be fruitful, our resolutions impactful, and our collaboration enduring. I thank the leadership of the 10th House of Representatives and the whole legislators once again for the visionary leadership in prioritizing education with the legislative agenda. I also appreciate all stakeholders, partners, and participants whose dedication reflects a shared belief that education remains the strongest instrument for national transformation. On this note, I wish you all a successful program. Thank you. May God bless our children. May God Almighty continue to guide our efforts. Bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I declare the roundtable closed. Thank you.
Please, can we give Her Excellency another round of applause with a standing ovation? Thank you, Your Excellency, we appreciate it. So please remain standing as we take the first stanza of the national anthem to bring this to a close. It's a continuum, so if you have further contributions to make, do not hesitate to reach the special assistant to the speaker, who also contributed in convening this roundtable. The national anthem, please.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign fatherland.
Thank you very much and have yourselves a lovely day. God bless you. Think education, think Nigeria, think the students, think out of school children. Thank you, NAS TV and all the television stations. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joma, for powering these events. God bless you.
Bless you too. Thank you.